Las Vegas, July 1968. On a Saturday night, the Desert Inn was packed. The casino was filled with high rollers. Celebrities mingled with the crowd at the bar and in the showroom. Dean Martin was preparing for his 11 p.m. performance. It should have been a normal night. Another performance in a city where Dean appeared dozens of times a year. But nothing about this night was ordinary, because sitting in the front row was Vincent "Vinny" Martello, a mob boss from Chicago with connections throughout the Midwest. He controlled unions, ran gambling operations, and had influence in legitimate businesses, from restaurants to construction companies. Vinny was in Las Vegas on business. Business that couldn't be discussed over the phone. Business that required face-to-face meetings with men who preferred to stay in the shadows. But Vinny also liked to be seen. He enjoyed people knowing he was in town. He liked the sense of power that came from sitting front row at the hottest show on the Strip. Dean knew who Vinny was. Everyone in Vegas did. You couldn't work in this town without knowing who controlled what, who to avoid, who to respect, and who to fear. But Dean had always kept his distance from the mob. He performed in their casinos, took their money, but didn't socialize with them, didn't owe them favors, didn't want to be in their debt. Frank Sinatra had complicated relationships with such men. Sammy Davis Jr. borrowed money from them. But Dean stayed clean, professional, calm, and distant. Until this night. Dean's older brother, Guglielmo "Bill" Crocetti, had died 3 years earlier, in 1965. A heart attack at age 56. Dean rarely spoke about it publicly. Grief was private, family was private, but people knew. In a city like Vegas, information traveled fast. People talked, and some paid close attention to what they heard. Dean was in his dressing room, going through his pre-show routine, when there was a knock at the door. "Come in." A man in an expensive suit entered, one of Vinny's associates. "Mr. Martello would like to say hello before the show." Dean set down his drink. "Tell Mr. Martello I appreciate the thought, but I'm preparing. I'll see him after the show if he wants. He's in the front row. And he'd like to see you now." It wasn't a request. Dean understood. When men like Vinny Martello sent for you, you went. Or you made an enemy. Dean stood. 5 minutes. That's all. He followed the man through the backstage area, past the curtain, into the hallway leading to the showroom. Vinny was waiting near the entrance, smoking a cigar, surrounded by 4 men who looked like they could kill with a single wrong glance. "Dean Martin." Vinny boomed. He was short, stocky, with slicked back hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. "The King of Vegas. I wanted to say hello before your show." Dean shook his hand. The grip was firm. Too firm. The grip of a man who needed to prove something. "Mr. Martello. Good to see you. Call me Vinny. We're both Italian boys, right? From the old neighborhoods. Well, different ones, but you know what I mean." "Sure. I heard your show's great. Wanted to see it myself. Brought some associates. We're looking forward to it." "I appreciate that." Vinny took a puff of his cigar. "You know, I knew your family back in the day, in Steubenville." Dean's face remained neutral. "Is that right?" "Yeah. Your old man had that barber shop. My uncle used to go there. Said he was a good man, hard worker. Immigrant values, you know." "He was. And you had a brother, right? Older brother. What was his name? Willie? Is that what they called him?" Something cold passed through Dean's chest. "Bill. We called him Bill." "Right. Bill. I heard he died a few years ago." "Heart. That's right. Losing family is tough. It's the worst." Vinny's voice sounded sympathetic, but his eyes were calculating, watching Dean's reaction. "How old was he?" 50-something. 56. 56. That's too young. Way too young. You know what probably did it? Stress. I bet he was stressed, trying to keep up with his famous little brother. That'll kill a man. Living in someone else's shadow, never quite measuring up. Dean went very still. "I mean," Vinny continued, "here you are, big star, making millions on TV, in the movies, playing Vegas, and there's Bill probably working some regular job, wondering why he didn't get the talent, why you got all the luck. That kind of resentment eats at you. Literally eats at your heart until it stops." One of Vinny's associates chuckled. The others stayed silent. Dean looked at Vinny. "Really?" Vinny must have noticed something in Dean's eyes, because his smile faltered for a moment. "That's awful, to say something like that," Dean said quietly. "What? I'm just telling the truth." "No, You're cruel. That's not the same thing. Vinny's smile returned, but now it was hard. Cruel? I'm just stating facts. You joke about my dead brother in front of strangers, suggesting he died from envy or bitterness, even though you never knew him, never met him. You have no idea what kind of man he was. Hey, I understand what you're trying to say, Dean interrupted. And I'm telling you, stop. Silence fell in the hallway. Vinny's men tensed. No one had ever told Vinny Martello to stop. Vinny's face reddened. You've got guts, Martin. Do you even know who I am? I know exactly who you are. Then you should understand that no one talks to me that way. I will talk to you the way I see fit when you show disrespect for my brother's memory. Vinny stepped closer. Now they were face to face. Dean could smell the cigar on his breath, see the anger in his eyes. Your brother was nobody, a nothing. He died a nobody. The only reason anyone even knew he existed is because of you. And it didn't help him. He still died poor and forgotten. Dean's hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed, hit him. Make him pay for what he said. But Dean didn't move. He simply stood, perfectly still. His face remained calm, his voice even quieter. Mr. Martello, I'm giving you a chance. Right now. A chance to apologize. Take back your words. Show that there is at least a shred of decency in you. I'm not apologizing. I know. But today, you will. Or you'll regret it. Vinny laughed. Regret it? And what will you do? You're a singer. An entertainer. You think you can threaten me? I'm not threatening you. I'm promising you. If you don't apologize right now, I will go on stage and tell the 300 people in that room everything you just said. I will tell them that Vincent Martello from Chicago joked about my dead brother, claimed he died of envy, mocked his memory. So what? Nobody cares. Everyone will care. Because I'll make them listen. I'll show them what kind of man you are. What kind of man mocks a deceased member of someone else's family. And then I'll tell them you're sitting in the front row. I'll point to you. Make sure everyone sees your face. Vinny's smile vanished. You wouldn't dare. Try me. You have 30 seconds to apologize. Or I go on stage. If you do that, you'll make an enemy. A dangerous enemy. I already have one. The question is whether you're smart enough to fix it. They stared at each other. Vinny's men exchanged glances. This was unusual. People didn't challenge him. They didn't threaten him in return. They didn't call his bluff. Finally, Vinny spoke. His voice was tight, forced. I apologize for my words about your brother. Say his name. What? Say his name. Vinny's jaw tightened. I apologize for my words about Bill. And I was wrong to say it. Dean nodded. Good. Now you will sit in the audience. You will watch my show. And you will sit quietly. No comments, no jokes, no disrespect. Can you do that? I can do whatever I want. Can you do this? Dean's voice didn't rise, but there was something in it that made Vinny pause. Fine. I'll behave. Good. Enjoy the show. Dean turned and walked back to the dressing room. Behind him, he heard Vinny's men speaking quietly and felt their eyes on his back. In the dressing room, Dean's hands shook. Not from fear, but from rage. Pure, blinding, white-hot rage, which he had held in check standing in front of Vinny. His stage manager knocked and entered. 5 minutes, Dean. Dean took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, locked the anger away. He had a show. 300 people were waiting to be entertained. He could not bring this darkness on stage. He stepped backstage, heard the orchestra start the opening music, heard the MC announce. Ladies and gentlemen, the Desert Inn proudly presents, Dean Martin. The curtain rose. The spotlight hit him. Dean walked on stage with a smile, as if nothing had happened. For the next 90 minutes, Dean was flawless. He sang every song perfectly, told jokes that made the room roar with laughter, and charmed everyone in the audience, everyone except Vinny Martello, who sat in the front row with his arms crossed, a stone-cold expression on his face, looking like he wanted to kill someone. Dean noticed him, but gave no sign of it. He didn't look in his direction. He didn't give him the satisfaction of knowing he had gotten under his skin. After the show, Dean went straight to his dressing room. His manager was already waiting. Dean, we've got a problem. What kind of problem? Vincent Martello is telling people you disrespected him, that you threatened him. His guys are spreading it all over the casino. This could end badly. Dean poured himself a drink. Let it end badly. I don't care. Dean, this is Vinny Martello, not some drunk tourist. He has connections. He's dangerous. You can't just. I can. And I did. He joked about Bill. About my brother. Nobody does that. I don't care who they are. But. No, but. I'm not apologizing. I'm not backing down. If Vinny wants a war, he can have it. But I will not let anyone mock my brother's memory. For any reason. And from anyone. The manager left, shaking his head. Dean stayed alone in the dressing room, thinking about Bill. Bill was 7 years older. He had taken care of Dean when they were kids, taught him how to box, how to stand up for himself, how to be a man. Bill worked at a steel mill. He had a normal job, a normal life. No fame, no millions, just a steady paycheck and a family he loved. When Dean entered show business, Bill was proud of him. Never jealous, never resentful, just happy for his younger brother. They stayed close. Dean helped Bill financially when he could, made sure Bill's children received a good education, and showed up for family gatherings whenever his schedule allowed. And when Bill died, Dean was crushed. He cried more than he ever had as an adult. He felt a hole in his heart that never truly closed. That's why, when Vinnie Martello said Bill had been jealous, that he died from living in Dean's shadow, it was the worst thing he could have said. If you enjoy stories about Dean Martin, like and subscribe. The next morning, Dean received a call from Frank Sinatra. Dean, what the hell happened last night? Who told you? Everyone. The whole story's all over Vegas. You stood up to Vinnie Martello. Are you out of your mind? He joked about Bill. Frank went quiet. About Bill? Your brother? Yes. What exactly did he say? Dean told him everything. About the jealousy. About the hints that Bill died from resentment. About the mocking tone. When he finished, Frank said, "That son of a bitch. I would have killed him. I thought about it too. But you didn't. You made him apologize." Yes. And maybe that was worse for him. You realize Vinny never apologizes to anyone? You made him do it in front of his people. He won't forget that. I don't care. Dean, I know you're angry. I know what Bill meant to you. But you need to be careful. Careless? No. I did it because he deserved it. Frank sighed heavily. Let me make a few calls. I'll try to smooth this over. Don't. I don't want it smoothed over. I want Vinny to know this. When you talk about someone's family, there are consequences. Dean, Frank said, I respect your position, but you're playing with fire. I'm not playing, Frank. I'm protecting my family. 2 days later, a visitor came to Dean's house, a man Dean had never seen before. Well-dressed, polite, but clearly, in business. Mr. Martin, my name is Anthony Cerno. I'm from New York. I'm here on behalf of certain people who are concerned about the situation between you and Mr. Martello. Dean didn't invite him in. He stood in the doorway. What situation? The confrontation at the Desert Inn. The words exchanged. The apology, that was received. Received? I asked for an apology. He gave it. That's it. Mr. Martello believes he was forced. That you threatened public humiliation if he didn't comply. I gave him a choice. He preferred to apologize rather than be shamed. That's not coercion. That's consequences. Cerno smiled faintly. Mr. Martin, I understand your position. And, between us, I agree that Mr. Martello was wrong. His words about your brother were disrespectful and unacceptable. But you must understand one thing. People like Vinny don't apologize. When they do, it costs them dearly. It makes them appear weak in the eyes of others. That's not my problem. It will become your problem if Vinny decides to make you pay for the humiliation. Dean looked him straight in the eyes. Is that a threat? It's a warning. From people who don't want the situation to escalate and someone to get hurt over something that should have remained private. It became public the moment Vinny started joking about it in front of his people, Dean said calmly. He made it public himself. I understand, but I'm asking you as a favor, let it go. Accept Vinny's apology and move on. Dean thought for a moment. I'll let it go on one condition. What condition? Vinny never mentions my brother again. Never talks about my family. Never jokes about people I've lost. If he does, everything is over, forever. Cerno nodded. I'll pass on your conditions. But I also need something from you. You must not tell this story. Don't speak about what Vinny said. If you do, the problem will become serious. Is that a threat? It's reality. You put a very influential man in an awkward position. He's willing to forget if you forget too. But if you tease the bear, one day he will bite. After a long pause, Dean nodded. All right, I won't speak of it. But if Vinny approaches me again or says a word about Bill, there are no more agreements. Understood. Thank you for your prudence. Cerno left. Dean closed the door and leaned against it, feeling the weight of what had happened. He had made a mob boss apologize, and now the mafia was sending negotiators. It didn't feel like a victory, only exhaustion. That evening, Dean's daughter, Dina, came to him. She was 16, smart, and observant. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. You don't look fine. You look tired and worried." Dean hugged her. "Just work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." "Is it because of Uncle Bill?" Dean pulled back and looked at her. "Why do you think that?" "Because you always look like this when you think about him." Sad and angry at the same time. Dean's eyes filled with tears. "Yes. It's because of Uncle Bill. I miss him too. He was always kind to me. Always had candy in his pocket. Always found time to play, even when he came home tired from work." "That's how he was," Dean said softly. "Kind, caring." "Someone said something bad about him, didn't they?" Dean was surprised. "How did you know?" "Mom said some man made a joke, and you stood up for Uncle Bill." "I'm proud of you." "Really?" "Of course. Uncle Bill would have been proud too. He always said you were the strongest in the family. Not the biggest, not the loudest, but the strongest where it counts." She pointed to her heart. Dean hugged her again, this time longer and tighter. "Thank you, sweetheart. I needed to hear that." Over the next few weeks, things stayed quiet. Vinny Martello left Vegas and returned to Chicago. The story of their confrontation spread through the underworld but never made it into the newspapers. And Dean kept performing, kept living his life, kept moving forward. But he never forgot what Vinny had said. And he never forgot what it felt like to stand up for Bill's memory, to defend his brother even when Bill was no longer there to defend himself. 6 months later, Dean was told that Vinny Martello was back in Vegas. He was staying at the Stardust, handling business, and keeping a much lower profile than before. Dean's manager told him, "I thought you should know, in case you want to avoid places where he might show up." "I'm not avoiding anyone," Dean said. "Dean, you don't need another confrontation." "I don't want another confrontation," Dean replied. "But I'm not hiding either." 2 nights later, Dean was having dinner at the Stardust restaurant with Sammy Davis Jr. and Joey Bishop. They were laughing, telling stories, having a good time. A waiter approached the table. "Mr. Martin, a gentleman would like to speak with you." "Mr. Martello." The table went silent. Sammy spoke first. "You don't have to go." "It's fine," Dean said as he stood up. "I'll be right back." He followed the waiter to a private booth at the back of the room. Vinny Martello was sitting alone, a drink in front of him. He looked older than he had 6 months earlier. Tired. "Dean, thanks for coming over." Dean didn't sit down. "What do you want, Vinny?" "To apologize. Properly. Not because someone made me, but because I want to." Dean studied him carefully, trying to see where the catch was. "Why?" "Because I've thought a lot about what happened, about what I said. And I was wrong, really wrong. I don't know why I said it. Maybe I was testing you. Maybe I was just being a bully. Maybe I was drunk on my own power. But whatever the reason, it was wrong." "All right. I lost a brother too," Vinny continued. "A long time ago. A younger brother. He was killed during a robbery. And when he died, it felt like a part of me died with him. Like there was a hole that could never be filled. And people said stupid, insensitive things, and it made me want to hurt them." Vinny looked up at Dean. "That's probably how you felt when I said what I said. And I'm sorry. I truly am." Dean sat down. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been thinking about legacy. About how I'll be remembered. And I don't want to be remembered as the man who mocked the dead, who was cruel for no reason, who used power to hurt people instead of helping them." "And how do you want to be remembered?" "As someone who made mistakes but tried to fix them. Who could admit when he was wrong. Who held on to some decency in a business that doesn't reward decency." They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Dean spoke. "Bill was a good man, the best man I ever knew. He worked hard, took care of his family, never complained, never asked for anything. And when I became successful, he was happy for me. Genuinely. No jealousy. No resentment. Just pride in his little brother. He sounds like a good man." He was. "And when you said he died because of jealousy, or because he lived in my shadow, it wasn't just wrong. It was the opposite of who he was. It was an insult to his memory, his character, everything he stood for. Vinny nodded. I understand. And I'm sorry, not just for the words, but for making you defend something that should never have been attacked in the first place. Dean looked at him and saw something he hadn't seen before, regret. Real regret. Apology accepted, Dean said. Really? Really? But if you ever say anything about my family again. I won't. You have my word. Your word means something to you. It does. To me. Dean stood and extended his hand. Vinny shook it. Thank you, Vinny said. For the second chance. Everyone deserves a second chance, Dean replied. A third, not always. Dean returned to the table. Everything okay? Sammy asked. Yeah. Everything's okay. He really apologized? He did. And you believe him? Dean thought for a moment. Yeah. I think I do. Years later, in 1976, Dean was performing at the MGM Grand. After the show, he was told that Vinnie Martello had been in the audience. Dean asked his security to escort him backstage. Vinnie looked older, grayer, moved more slowly, but his eyes were still sharp. Great show, Dean. Thank you. What brings you to Vegas? Almost retired. Spending more time here now, less in Chicago. Winter's rough on the knees. They talked briefly about the weather, how Vegas was changing, old casinos being torn down and new ones built. As he was leaving, Vinny paused. I wanted to tell you something about that night in '68. Ancient history, Vinny. Maybe. But it changed me. The way you stood up for your brother, it made me think about my own. About how I wish someone had protected his memory. I tried to be better. Not perfect, just better. Dean nodded. I'm glad something good came out of it. It did. Thank you. For your courage. For showing me that power doesn't give the right to be cruel. They shook hands. No tension, no performance for the public. Just mutual respect. When Vinnie Martello died in 1982, Dean received a letter. It had been written in advance. Dean, if you're reading this, I'm no longer here. I wanted to thank you for that night at the Desert Inn. You showed me that true strength isn't in intimidation, but in principles. Your brother Bill would have been proud of you. Thank you for the honor. Dean folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Then he took out an old photograph of Bill at their father's barbershop. I protected you, Bill, he whispered. The way you always protected me. He looked at the photo for a long time. Because that's what family means. And that's what true love is.